Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
And we are back on our special coronavirus edition of Liberty Nation Radio. And, you know, part of the challenge, Leesa, is not to get too hysterical about this, but to also acknowledge the reality of how the world has responded. So let's talk a little bit about the Trump presidency, which now faces the same challenge, it seems, as George W. Bush, a wartime presidency overnight, in essence. The whole focus of the presidency has changed completely. Is Donald Trump well-equipped or ill-equipped to make this 180 from a message of peace and prosperity to, I'll protect you from this enemy, the terrorism of this virus?
Well, you know, the Democrats have been hitting him left, right, and loose on this topic. But I thought he did a good job from the Oval Office. I don't remember actually seeing Trump do too many addresses from the Oval Office. So I found that very interesting. I thought he did a very good job, you know, not trying to ratchet up the fear and ratchet up the panic. And, you know, that is the issue here, especially not just for leaders, but for media outlets like us. I mean, how do we play it? Do we can ramp up the fear. We have that power. And we are living in a litigious society. Let's face it, if we had tort reform, and it has to be state law, 50 tort reforms, I wonder if the NBA, the NHL, and the MLB would be covering their butts like this. You know, I think the same thing that leads to frustration packaging, where you can't open a bottle anymore, is what's leading to this. I don't think it's that Americans are chicken. I think what's happening is that we have allowed this litigious society to roam and reign free. And this is where we are. You know, a movie theater that's sued by somebody who gets coronavirus, well, that could shut them down. So they're just being proactive about it. I think it all goes back to tort reform and a litigious society.
Well, excellent points, Leesa. And looking at the broader political ramifications of this, Mark, people don't generally change leaders in the midst of a crisis, especially one not of that leader's making. Of course, George W. Bush didn't face the voters for more than 3 years after 9/11, when his presidency changed overnight. Trump has 8 months until this election. Is this analogy of a wartime presidency an apt one or overly dramatic?
As an analogy, it works perfectly, because what you're facing is a crisis that threatens the country to some degree or another. There's the old saying about the country that wins the war is the one that produces the most steel. And I think the steel in this particular war is that of press. And Trump's doing a great job with the press. He's he's speaking often. He's in communication, whether that's through Twitter or sound bites or all other things. And of course, there is another form of press going on, and that's the one that's focused on how poorly Trump's doing. And really, whether you believe one side or the other, it's very much an information war.
Okay, now, Leesa, I'm going to play what Joe Biden had to say on Thursday.
We have to help the world to drive coordinated global strategy, not shut ourselves off from the world. Protecting the health and safety of the American people is the most important job of any president. And unfortunately, this virus laid bare the severe shortcomings of the current administration. Public fears are being compounded by pervasive lack of trust in this president, fueled by adversarial relationships with the truth that he continues to have. Our government's ability to respond effectively has been undermined by hollowing out our agencies and disparagement of science.
So, Leesa, I had a visceral reaction to that, to Biden exploiting a public health crisis for naked political purpose. Made me angry, very angry. I told you about it yesterday. Is this smart politics by the aging Joe Biden to make people think that Trump can't handle the crisis, that he's going to lie to the American people about it, can't protect them from this threat?
Look, the Democrats have one singular problem, and that's voter turnout. So what they're going to do between now and November is to try to rally their base, marshal their forces. That's what this is about. I think it's plain and simple. I heard his comment. It didn't surprise me. It didn't make me angry. It was just kind of par for the course, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to work. I think trying to divide the country at a time like this isn't an effective political strategy. That's my opinion. But I know why they're doing it. It's all about marshaling their forces, gathering their base, and hoping for a really high voter turnout, because that's what they need.
Well, with all we've been through in the last 3 years with Russia collusion and the Ukraine and impeachment and Stormy Daniels and Comey and everything else, when I heard that statement from Biden yesterday, I thought this was the worst attack that they had made on him in his entire presidency, because it's totally unjustified, because he's done nothing wrong. But they thought that he invented the COVID-19 and is delighting in its spread, as I wrote in a piece on LibertyNation.com on Friday morning. Now, Mark, how concerned should we be by the precipitous drop in the stock market and world markets? Some say Armageddon is just around the corner. Others say when this is over, the markets will rebound like never before. What's your sense of it?
I would go with the latter on this one, Tim. I think there is going to be some tough times ahead. It's really a question of people, because nobody actually loses money on stocks until they sell them. Remember, you hang on to them and then you ride it through. But what's happening is there's so much stimulus being put aside for this to go into the economy. That's putting money into people's pockets. That's putting into infrastructure projects. It's doing all sorts of things, all the things that build an economy. So what's going to happen is, once all of this is over, there's all this liquidity running around in the systems, all this grease on the cogs of commerce. And I really think there's going to be a massive rally.
Leesa K. Donner, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tim.
And thank you, Mark Angelides from the UK.
My pleasure.